You know, people always say that when you get older, you get wiser. I call bullshit. You don't get wiser. You just run out of energy to argue with stupid people. That's not wisdom. That's surrender. You hit 50, and suddenly you're supposed to start reflecting on your life like you're some ancient monk on a hilltop humming mantras and looking serene. Screw that. You're not enlightened. You're just too tired to bend down and pick up the remote anymore. You don't see the world differently because you're more evolved. You see it differently because your knees crack when you get out of bed and your bladder thinks it's a drill sergeant at 3 a.m. They tell you family is your support system. Family is everything. Blood is thicker than water. Well, so is gravy. And guess what? Gravy clogs your arteries. So does family. I'm not saying they don't love you. They do, in theory. In practice, they forget your birthday unless Facebook reminds them. They'll show up to your funeral with a casserole. But if you ask for a ride to the airport, suddenly it's like you've requested a kidney. Now when you're a kid, family means something. You're small, clueless, and mostly sticky. You need people to feed you, wipe you, and explain why you can't eat pennies. But once you cross 50, the tables turn. You become the person everyone assumes has it together. The dependable one, the one who's experienced. You mean I've seen more disappointment up close and personal than an unpaid intern at a circus. People think 50 is the age of calm. It's the age of I can't believe I have to listen to this crap again. You start hearing the same problems from the same people, only louder because they're also going deaf. Suddenly, your support system is a network of people asking if you've looked into yoga for your back pain. Have you tried journaling like scribbling in a notebook is going to realign your spine and fix your mortgage? Let me tell you what support really looks like when you hit the big 5-0. It's not holiday cards with glitter from relatives who spelled your name wrong. It's not your second cousin texting Awoki. Like it's Morse code for human compassion. Real support, the kind you can count on. It comes from within. It comes from that little voice in your head that sounds suspiciously like sarcasm and keeps you from punching a hole in the drywall because the toaster burned your bagel again. At 50, your emotional safety net has to be built out of something stronger than old Christmas traditions and a group chat called Fam Bample. No. It's built from knowing the game is rigged, the rules are fake, and somehow you're still expected to play and laugh while you do it. So you learn that people will disappoint you not because they're evil, but because most folks are operating at about 40% capacity on a good day. Everyone's distracted, overworked, underpaid, and overstimulated. You ask someone for help and they reply with, "Lem, check my schedule," like they're coordinating a Mars landing. Meanwhile, they're canceling on you so they can binge runs of a show they've already seen 6 times. That's the new family support model, digital loyalty and emotional buffering. Thanks, but I'll pass. And a real kicker, when you start needing help, I mean actual help, the kind that involves heavy lifting or emotional presence, family tends to scatter like roaches when the kitchen light flips on. They've got appointments. They're super slammed. They're sending prayers. I've got news for you. Prayers don't clean gutters. Prayers don't drive you to your colonoscopy. Prayers don't show up with soup unless there's a funeral attached. Let's talk about the kind of support that does show up. It's not always pretty. Sometimes it's just your own damn stubbornness. The beautiful, crusty kind of stubbornness that develops after years of being let down, stood up, and talked over. That's the backbone of real support, the moment you realize no one's coming to save you, and you still make the coffee anyway. You ever notice that as you age, your filter just disappears? That's not because older people are rude. It's because the filter got too heavy to carry around. Every time you don't say what you mean, a tiny piece of your soul sighs and puts in his resignation letter. By 50, that soul is living on a beach somewhere drinking margaritas while your mouth finally catches up to what your brain's been screaming for decades. This is dumb. Why are we doing this? You start calling out bullshit in real time. You don't even wait for the sentence to finish. Someone says, "We're like a family here at work." And you go, "Great, so you'll disappoint me at Thanksgiving and forget my birthday." And then they just blink at you like you hacked the Matrix. So no, the reliable support system isn't family. It's your finely tuned sense of sarcasm, your built-in detector for nonsense, and that weird joy you get from watching squirrels fight over a stale piece of bread. It's the fact that you can laugh through the mess. Not because the mess is funny, but because you've seen it all before and you're just impressed it's still trying. Support after 50 comes from knowing exactly what hill you're not going to die on. You want to argue about who left the cap off the toothpaste. Be my guest. I'm saving my energy for real problems, like trying to remember what I walked in this room for. It comes from accepting that you become your own support group. No snacks, no agenda, just you talking to yourself in the mirror like, "You got this, probably, maybe. Who cares? Let's do it anyway." And you do, not because you're brave, because you've run out of reasons not to. At 50, there's a shift. You stop expecting people to carry you and you start carrying yourself slowly with occasional groaning, but you're doing it. You stop waiting for approval, permission, or perfect timing. You realize the time is now. The audience is probably asleep, and the script was written in crayon. But hell, the show must go on. That's where the magic is. Not in the cozy Hallmark movie version of family support with matching pajamas and synchronized hot cocoa sipping. No, the magic is in the chowder. Coffee, fueled laughs. So you don't cry survival dance you do when the world keeps throwing you curveballs and you're out here with a tennis racket, a sarcastic grin. You learn to find strength in absurdity. You look at the world and go, "Okay, so we're doing this now." And instead of panicking, you adjust, you roll your eyes, mutter something under your breath and get on with it. Because after 50, you've seen enough plot twists to know that nothing, and I mean nothing, is ever going to make perfect sense. And that's liberating. So yeah, family is nice when they remember to call, when they're not too busy updating their vision boards or recharging their crystals. But if you really want a support system that lasts, one that won't flake, fade, or forward you inspirational memes instead of showing up and starts with you, your wit, your grit, and your God-given ability to keep going even when the world is out of ice cream and patience. Once you cross 50, people start treating you like you've got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel. And I've got news for you. That banana peel's been there since your 30s. You just didn't notice because you were too busy chasing promotions, relationships, and that magical six-pack abs that never showed up. You hit 50, and suddenly everyone's handing you pamphlets about retirement, joint supplements, and meditation retreats. No one gives you a manual on how to keep your sanity while your eyebrows start migrating to your ears, and every commercial you see is for constipation relief. And when the world starts getting weird, and oh baby, it will, you quickly learn that the only dependable pillars of support aren't the ones you used to count on. Family, friends, most of them flake the second you suggest moving to Kutch or needing help with your VCR. Yeah, I still got one, unjudged. That thing's more reliable than half the people I know. So you look around and realize, wait a minute, I need something solid. Something that won't vanish when I turn my back or ask to borrow $20. And that's when you discover the 5 real pillars of support. Not soft, squishy, emotional nonsense, not vague fortune cookie advice about believing in yourself. No, I'm talking about the real stuff that holds you up when everything else falls down. And it ain't pretty, but it's real. Real as that hair growing out of your shoulders for no good reason. First one, cynical wisdom. That's right, not optimism, not blind hope. Cynical wisdom. The kind of truth that's been boiled, baked, and left out in the sun too long. You know the type, it's not uplifting, it's downright abrasive, but it's true. By the time you're 50, you've learned the hard way that most things in life are not what they seem. People promise you forever and give you until football season's over. Companies say they're a family, then fire you by voicemail. Politicians tell you they care, then forget your name unless you've got a checkbook or a camera crew. Cynical wisdom is your armor. It doesn't mean you hate the world. It just means you've looked at it closely, smelled it, poked it with a stick, and gone, yep. This is a pile of nonsense in a trench coat pretending to be progress. And once you stop expecting the world to be fair or reasonable or even awake, you stop getting disappointed. That's freedom. It's like letting go of a balloon filled with expectations and watching it float off in the sunset, then get stuck in a tree, burst, and scare a nearby squirrel. That's life. You laugh, move on. Second pillar, dark humor, not that polite. Dinner party chuckle crap. No, I'm talking about the kind of humor that comes from looking death in the eye and saying, you got any snacks this time? The stuff that lets you laugh when your doctor says, well, that's new. Or when your body starts making noises you can't identify. Is that my hip? Or did I just step on a duck? You don't even need an audience. At 50, half the conversations you have are with yourself anyway. Dark humor is what keeps you human when the world feels like a giant accident no one's cleaned up yet. It's the ability to look around and go, yup, everything's on fire. But at least I'm roasting a marshmallow. It's the only way to process a world where cereal costs $7 and everyone's allergic to gluten, but somehow nobody's allergic to their own delusions. That's the gold right there. You can't fix the madness, but you can laugh at it, and that's a form of rebellion. You're flipping off the chaos with a punchline. Third pillar, mental independence. You know what that means? It means stop asking for permission to live your damn life. At some point, you got to realize that no one's coming to give you a trophy for most agreeable, and being liked by everyone usually means you stood for nothing and said even less. Screw that at 50. You've earned the right to think your own thoughts, even if they're unpopular, inconvenient, or, God forbid, logical. Mental independence is when you stop following trends because you've lived through enough of them to know they all come back around. High-waisted pants, check. Kale, check. People pretending they just discovered meditation like it's a new invention. Please, I've been sitting in silence judging people since the 70s. You don't need a guru for that, just a folding chair and a bad attitude. Mental independence means your brain is yours. Not cable news, not motivational speakers with 300 haircuts and nothing to say. Not your Aunt Linda who keeps forwarding chain emails about mercury in canned soup. Yours, you don't have to agree with everyone. You don't have to belong to a tribe. You don't have to explain your decisions to people who still think fax machines are cutting edge. You can just say, no thanks, and move on with your day. That's power. That's freedom. That's a pillar. Now the fourth one, and this one's abused, a finely tuned, battle-tested state-of-the-art industrial strength bullshit detector. And buddy, if you don't have one of these by 50, you might as well stay in bed and let the world sell you essential oils to fix your transmission. This detector is your survival tool. It buzzes when someone tells you they just want to pick your brain and then proceeds to talk about themselves for 45 minutes. It blares when a commercial says limited time offer, even though it's been running since Clinton was in office. It flashes red when a stranger at a party uses the word synergy. Unironically, your BS detector keeps you safe. It tells you when someone's being sincere and when they're just practicing their TED Talk in your direction. You ever listen to someone pitch you an idea and halfway through, your brain just checks out and starts thinking about sandwiches? That's your detector at work. That's your body's way of saying, we've heard this scam before. Let's conserve energy and think about pastrami. And the beautiful thing is once you've got this detector humming at full volume, you can't be fooled. Not by marketing, not by fake friends, not by someone calling themselves a thought leader. What the hell is that anyway? I don't need a thought leader. I need someone who knows how to fix a leaky faucet and doesn't use hashtags in real life. Last one, the fifth pillar, the big one. A daily dose of outrage. You heard me, outrage. Not the social media tantrum kind, not performative headline casing rage that burns out by lunchtime. No, I'm talking about the slow burn, well-seasoned, deeply satisfying outrage that reminds you you're still alive. It's like a shot of espresso for your soul. Keeps you sharp, keeps you engaged. You see something stupid, good, be mad about it. Not everything needs to be zen. You don't have to release and let go all the time. Sometimes you got to grab hold of the madness and shake it a little just to hear what falls out. Outrage is your proof that you still care, that you still give a damn. Not about everything. You don't have the energy for that, but about the stuff that matters. like truth, like decency, like people using the correct form of your in public. This kind of outrage doesn't make you bitter. It makes you better. Because when you get mad for the right reasons, you start to notice what actually deserves your attention. You stop wasting time being polite to ideas that belong in the dumpster. You get clear. You get focused. And you stop apologizing for not smiling when the house is on fire. Now look, I'm not saying these 5 pillars are going to make your life easy. Easy left the building around the same time your metabolism did. What I'm saying is, these are the things that don't let you down. These are the things you can build on when the rest of the world is busy selling you mindfulness apps and scented candles while everything crumbles around you. You want support after 50. You want something that'll hold you up when your back's giving out, your friends are flaky, and your neighbor just installed a Wen chime that sounds like a haunted xylophone. Then lean on these 5 things. They won't hug you, but they'll keep you standing. So here's the thing they never tell you about hitting 50V. You don't suddenly get wise and calm and full of peace like some smiling old wizard on a hill. No, what actually happens is you just run out of tolerance for crap. That's the gift. The enlightenment everyone talks about. It's not wisdom, it's digestive issues, back pain, and the sudden realization that you've been lied to by shampoo commercials for 30 years. And you finally start seeing it all for what it is. The world life. The endless parade of nonsense dressed up in inspirational posters and PowerPoint slides. Now, you want to know why people keep watching those old rants? The ones where someone finally says what everybody's been thinking but was too afraid to say out loud. Because truth, when it's wrapped in laughter, hits different. It's not just entertainment. It's not just a performance. It's medicine. It's a damn support beam. You ever listen to one of those old rants where someone just tears into the absurdity of it all? The rules, the rituals, the lies we all agree to pretend are true, and instead of feeling offended or hurt, you just feel lighter. That's because for the first time in a long time, someone's speaking your language. Not the language of small talk and phony smiles, but the language of truth with a punchline, sarcastic enlightenment. It's not taught in school. It's earned, like gray hair or binions. And after 50, it becomes sacred. You know what changes the most when you cross that line into your 50s? You stop needing permission to find things ridiculous. You stop sitting through boring conversations, politely nodding like a bobblehead in a waiting room. Now you listen for 5 seconds, decide it's nonsense, and mentally exit the room like a ghost. You're still smiling. But inside your brain, you're at home in your slippers yelling at the TV. That's what they call wisdom. That's what they write books about, the ability to disengage while still technically participating. That's called multitasking. Because let's be real, after 5 decades on this rock, you've seen the same scenes play out over and over. The names change, the fashions get dumber, and now coffee costs more than rent used to. But the core stupidity, that's eternal. The parade of people trying to sell you a miracle solution, a new lifestyle, a better way to tie your shoes. It never stops, and you've heard it all. You've seen it in reruns. You've survived disco. You've survived the fitness craze that told you to sweat to the oldies and told you sweating was toxic. You've seen 10 different versions of the same lie, each one rebranded with jazz hands. And that's why those rants, the real ones, the ones people can't stop watching, are so damn comforting because they cut through the noise. They don't try to sell you anything. They don't care if you're offended. They're not polished. They're not trying to trend. They're not sponsored by a probiotic company. They're just pure, unfiltered, glorious. What the hell is wrong with everything? It's like spiritual cleansing, but with more profanity and less yoga pants. You listen to one of those and suddenly your back hurts a little less, your heart rate drops, and you remember, yes, I'm not crazy. The world is dumb. And that realization, that support, that's what holds you up. Because when everything around you starts falling apart, when politics turns into performance art, when technology outpaces common sense, when people think avocado toast is a personality, you need something solid to lean on. And that something is ladder. Not the polite chuckle at the work meeting, not the fake giggle you do when someone tells you a pun and expects applause. No, I mean the gut level, shake your head, oh my God, we are so screwed kind of laugh. The one that comes from knowing too much and surviving anyway. See, people think humor is a distraction. They think it's light, it's fluffy, it's something you do to kill time between therapy sessions. Humor is a weapon, not a weapon to hurt. No, we've got enough of that. It's a weapon to see, to cut through the crap, to slice open the packaging and see what's really inside. And what's usually inside? A whole lot of nothing with fancy lettering. When you laugh at something, really laugh, you take away its power, you defang it, you strip it of its ability to intimidate. That's why humor survives even in the darkest places, because people need it to live. Not to escape life, but to stay in it. To endure the endless line at the DMV, the phone call with your insurance company, the neighbor who thinks wind chimes are a personality. Humor is the glue that keeps you from snapping. It's the tape that holds your cracked sanity together while the world keeps rearranging the furniture in the dark. And once you pass 50, that kind of humor isn't optional, it's essential. Because now the absurdity is hitting you personally. Your body starts sending you error messages, but they're all in Morse code. You wake up with an injury you got from sleeping. You start saying things like, oh, I can't eat that after 7. And what's that smell? Is that me? You try to call customer service, and the first thing they ask is if you've tried unplugging your soul and plugging it back in. So what do? You laugh, because it's either that or weep into your orthopedic shoes. You develop a taste for mocking everything, especially yourself. You start narrating your life like a documentary. Here we see a middle-aged man attempting to retrieve a sock from under the bed. Watch as he considers his life choices, then decides it's not worth it and wears mismatched socks instead. You start to realize that the world never actually grows up. It just gets better at pretending. All the adults are faking it. Every conference room is just show and tell with coffee. Every press conference is just drama club with ties. And every so-called important decision is mostly people panicking quietly behind a spreadsheet. Once you see that, once you really get that in your bones, you can take anything too seriously ever again. That's not apathy, that's clarity. And here's the kicker. Once you start laughing at it all, you stop being afraid of it. Because now you've got perspective. You've got distance. You're not in the middle of the panic anymore. You're watching the panic like a sitcom. You're not thinking, how will I survive this? You're thinking, well, this is a terrible episode. Who wrote this crap? That's why the rant matters. That's why it's a pillar. Because it reminds you that the emperor's got no clothes and, frankly, no business being in charge of the kingdom in the first place. The rant pulls back the curtain and says, look at this mess. Look at the crumbs in the corner and the dented walls and the fact that nobody here knows what they're doing. And instead of feeling hopeless, you feel relieved because now it all makes sense. The chaos, the confusion, the endless loop of trial and error. It's not a glitch, it's the system. And once you know that you stop looking for perfection, you stop chasing certainty, you just embrace the mess and start dancing in it like a lunatic at a wedding. You're not trying to win anymore. You're just trying to enjoy the music while it plays. Even if the band's drunk and missing a trombone. That's why humor isn't optional after 50. It's foundational. You use it to process the grief, the loss, the change, the absurdity. You laugh when your pants don't fit. You laugh when someone calls you sir and you realize they're younger than your socks. You laugh when you say back in my day and realize, yup, you've officially become that guy. Welcome to the club. We meet Thursdays, bring snacks, and you keep watching those old rants, not because you're nostalgic, but because they're honest. They don't sugarcoat. They don't try to make you feel better. They just show you the truth in high definition and dare you not to laugh. And that's real support. That's a hand on your shoulder saying, you're not alone in thinking this is all insane. That's someone holding up a mirror and saying, yep, it's just as stupid as you thought. So when people ask why those clips are still popular, why they keep getting passed around like sacred texts at a barbecue, the answer is simple: because they help. They remind us that laughter is the only sane response to a world that forgot how to make sense. And after 50, that's the kind of support you can count on. Not someone offering advice they read on a coffee mug. Not a motivational speaker who charges a $900 to say believe in yourself. No, just raw, unfiltered, righteous laughter that says you're not crazy. You're just paying attention. Once you hit 50, something magical happens. You stop pretending. You stop pretending you like kale. You stop pretending you're going to get back into jogging. And you definitely stop pretending family is the ultimate safety net. Because by that age, you've lived long enough to know the support system you were promised. Yeah, it's more like a customer service hotline where nobody picks up. Everybody says family's everything, really. Then how come I've seen people get more emotional over losing a sock than when their uncle moves away? I've gotten more support from a chair with one leg than some of my relatives. At least the chair tries to hold me up. You ever notice when you're young and broke, family says, builds character. But the minute they need help, suddenly it's a medical emergency and they need your car, your time, and your Wi-Fi password. Where was his energy when I needed a ride to my job interview in 1987? And they always say, we're here for you. Yeah, right, until moving day, until the check engine light comes on, until you ask for help filling out a form that doesn't involve pie recipes or baby shower RSVPs, then it's radio silence or worse. Have you tried Googling it? The truth is, when you hit 50, your real support doesn't come from holiday dinners or people who share your last name but forget your birthday. It comes from somewhere else, from that voice in your head that says, this is ridiculous. Right before you fake a smile and nod through another conversation about essential oils or gluten-free casseroles, you get to a point where you realize you've got you, just you. You've survived fads, fashion disasters, and decades of family group photos where everyone blinked. You've handled disappointment with grace and indigestion with Tums. You've built up a solid wall of experience, skepticism, and gallows humor, and baby, that wall's doing the heavy lifting now. So yeah, the fantasy of family being your forever cushion. Nice idea, looks great in movies. But in real life, the most reliable support is the part of you that's tired of sugarcoating, has a well-developed nonsense filter, and knows when to fake an injury to get out of helping someone move.